Tonight, an Uber driver charged with murdering 6 people while picking up fares in between killings. Hear from his terrified passengers.
You're not the shooter, are you?
Plus, Jared Fogle, the convicted pedophile once out of prison before serving his 15 years behind bars. Let's get started. And police say an Uber driver admits to, quote, taking people's lives, killing 6, injuring 2. They say then he picked up passengers during this 7-hour rampage. Take a look.
All right, court calls the case of State of Michigan versus Jason Brian Dalton.
Jason Brian Dalton was arraigned on 6 counts of murder.
Police say Dalton opened fire at 3 locations over the course of nearly 7 hours Saturday night, picking up Uber fares in between shootings.
We were kind of driving through medians, driving through the lawn, speeding along, and then finally, once he came to a stop, I jumped out of the car.
The idea that someone would go from parking lot to parking lot and situations and just opening fire and shooting innocent people in front of children and shooting children.
It appears all of the shootings were random.
An apartment complex where a woman was shot 4 times. A car dealership where 2 men were shot and killed. 4 people were gunned down in the parking lot of a Cracker Barrel.
They weren't targeted for any reason other than they were there to be a target.
Joining us, Sarah Azari, attorney, Annalise Getz, also an attorney, Judy Ho, clinical psychologist and professor at Pepperdine University, Karamo Brown, television host and social worker. All of us, including myself, Uber users, full disclosure. Both my sons drive with Uber. And from Michigan, I have Nick Valencia, CNN correspondent. Nick, any explanation for this behavior?
I mean, it's sickening when you think about the details that he was picking up fares in between these shooting scenes. It's the sheer senseless nature of this violent rampage on Saturday night that has this community just really hurting, especially hard. Investigators still haven't developed a motive. He spoke with investigators, but even after that, they still don't know what inspired him or what triggered him to do this. Today was the first time that we saw the suspect in court. After he was charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder, 16 counts in all. The only time he ever showed any emotion was when the judge read out the attempted murder charge against a minor. Of course, this suspect is a father of 2 young children. He's also married. He appeared via video conference, showing very, as I mentioned, little emotion. He spoke just about 10 words, saying that he would prefer to remain silent when asked if he wanted to make a statement. I was at a probable cause hearing right before the arraignment, and detectives were laying out their case. They said even after he was read his Miranda rights, he admitted to, quote, taking people's lives. It was a much different tone in the courtroom earlier today.
Nick, thank you so much. Great update. I appreciate that. Judy, you're the mental health expert here. Let's get into this a little bit. I see him looking. We hear about this agitation, right? He's some sort of agitated state. Don't know if it's just because he's an angry dude with a personality disorder or if he's manic or on drugs. But he looks sort of addled and confused in this video we see of him in the courtroom. I'm going to talk to Eugene Driver in a minute about him. But he looks sort of like, it's not even pensive, just sort of confused. Am I right?
Right. It doesn't seem like he's rooted in reality at all. And that's why it makes me wonder more about perhaps a drug state or maybe the breaks of a psychotic episode, but not so much a personality disorder because we don't really have much history. He has a relationship. He has 2 children. It doesn't seem like he's had psychological or criminal history before.
Karamo, you said you're going to take us on this. Come on now.
Yeah, I don't believe this is mental health. I actually get a little upset when we keep on using this excuse. Let's call it a spade.
Not an excuse.
You know me. I've been on the show many times. I know when we're validly saying mental health issues. Right here, let's call a spade a spade. This man is just evil. And the reason that he's pensive in this courtroom and not saying anything is because sometimes when you're just evil, you don't have anything else to say.
And
so, like, let's call...
What is evil? What is
the man that will get in an Uber car and drive and kill people over and over again.
But he has a child. He has 2 children.
I know many people with children who are evil.
So do you think that he all of a sudden became evil, or do you think that this was just something that he was growing in his body until?
I think that he was a very evil person, and sometimes this just came out in this way. I don't want personal responsibility. This man needs to be held responsible.
I want to talk to the neighbor who has a profile for us about this man. On the phone, I have one of Jason Dalton. He's the Uber driver, one of his neighbors. James Block. He has lived next to Dalton for 17 years. So, James, you have a pretty good view, sort of sense of who this guy was. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, I do. First of all, my thoughts and prayers go out to the victims. And, yeah, Jason, he never showed any kind. For 17 years I've known him, never showed any kind of anger towards anybody. His loving family, loved to work outdoors with his family and make sure that they always were involved with everything together. He also loved to work on cars. He even taught at a community college 10 years ago, teaching auto body. I'd see him once a week during the summer. Every day I'd see him and talk to him, have conversations with him. Never, ever occurred to me that he would do such a horrible thing.
Now, he had some guns, I understand. Were you aware of that? And why do you think he was keeping guns?
The only thing I know about the guns, and I know the reports said a whole bunch of long guns and stuff. I knew he had a pistol, and he had bought him a pistol probably about a year ago. He saw people. Oh, his garage got broken into with all his body work.
So he was trying to protect his property.
That's why he bought. And he also bought a guard dog.
And James, he also. Oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna have a little paranoia in there, but because people get a little paranoid as they get sort of manicky. Again, James, we're just trying to figure out what happened here. But you say he lost his job recently. Did that contribute to this?
See, I never knew. That's one puzzling part about. They said he lost his job. He never indicated to me he ever lost his job. As far as I know. And have known, he's been at 3 different insurance agencies as a claims adjuster for, wrecked cars. He do the estimates, since he's so good at body work. I never even knew he drove for Uber. I even talked to him on Thursday for 20 minutes, and I've just gotten back to work from having 6 months off for surgery. He's always asking me, hey, how's your shoulder doing? How's work going? Well, I'm not back to work yet. And then I asked him the same thing. How's work going? He said, fine.
And James, have you had any contact with his family?
No, not directly, but indirectly. His one of his friends, his wife Carol, which is Jason's wife, Carol, contacted his friend and had his friend tell me to keep an eye on the house while.
Okay.
This is always a whole set of ordeals.
Well, James, thank you very much. We will watch this story. I really appreciate this report. It gives us a sense of who this guy was. It suddenly seemed to go off the rail. I mean, I started thinking about things like brain tumors. You get pressure on the brain. People can engage in strange behavior. People remember the UT shooting 45 years ago, whatever it was now. Anything else, Karamo? You still thinking the guy's just a bad dude?
I do. That explanation right there didn't serve anything for me. His description, the fact that he was a teacher, the fact that he worked on cars. I know a lot of evil people that work on cars.
Here's what I like. Both attorneys have been quiet during this. Normally they're the one like, this guy's a bad dude, put him away, right?
Well, I'm looking at this and we're hearing about these horrible victims of the random shooting. Yeah. But then you hear the neighbor's testimony and you think, there are 2 more victims here. There are those 2 kids that thought they had this dad that was a model citizen, and he's saying he's a family guy, he took them everywhere. Those 2 kids, their world has just been rocked.
Sarah,
my heart breaks.
Yeah, uber mentally ill or uber angry, whatever the situation might be.
It's Uber.
It's Uber, Uber driver. This goes back to our serious gun problem. I mean, we have a huge gun violence problem. And when you have easy access to guns, coupled with mental illness, coupled with being evil, then things get out of control.
Or any of the above. Screening who gets guns is a big problem. We will keep this up. And later, Jared Fogle says, poor boy, he's being punished too harshly for the sex crimes he committed against minors. If you remember, he did some bad things, but punished too harshly. Back after this.